Yo, what's popping? It's Thompson, and we have the final Eastern matches of Week 2 of the Countdown Cup qualifiers. Both of these matches very important for the play-ins because you have the Charge playing one, the Valley playing the other, and every single match they play is absolutely important that they win so that they have a better chance of beating the other for that final spot. They do play each other next weekend, which is going to be very interesting to watch. It will have a huge impact on who makes it in. It's not a guaranteed impact because I believe if Valiant wins, then they still have to beat the Shanghai Dragons. If Charge lose, I don't know. It's not clear cut, but anyway, it's gonna be very impactful. And before I get into any more, like this video if you like it, subscribe if you like this kind of content. I do upload daily. However, there will be no NA review today because it's my girlfriend's birthday and she kind of outranks you guys. So yeah. Anyway, starting off, Philadelphia Fusion against the Guangzhou Charge is a 3-2 win for the Charge. Philly playing MN3, Zest, Fury, Aim God, and Fixa. Charge playing Jimmy Choi Se1, Piggy Xerneas, and Faraway 1987. Lijiang Tower is a 2-1 for Philly. Both teams playing the Zarya, Genji, Sombra on a Lucio. You see Philly try to come out on the Reaper at the beginning on Gardens, but he goes very aggressive, gets forced to Wraith, and then he gets chased down and dies. And then at that point, he just kind of gives up on it for most of the series. He does bring it back a little bit, but it's mostly just the Genji you see. And it's kind of interesting to me because I feel like that was the edge that Philly had over Charge whenever they did have a better Reaper comp because you saw Zest going really crazy. But it kind of makes sense here. The only way the Reaper would be better than the Genji in the Zarya mirror is if you can overpower the Zarya and just kind of steamroll. But most of the time, the Genji is going to be able to get more value because you can go into the back line, you have more pressure back there, you have a better dive with the Sombra. And the Reaper would only get more value maybe whenever you want to contest the high ground on like King's Row and things like that. But in this series, it actually comes out that the Genji is better more often because the maps are Lijiang, Ike, and Dorado, and then you get the control point and the other one. So like most of the time, the Genji just had more value, and you ended up getting the Genji duel. It was a pretty damn close Genji duel because you have Zest, Choice One on either side, both very good at the Genji. To start off Lijiang, I did feel like Zest had the upper hand at the beginning. Because it wasn't like Choice One wasn't like winning; he was still winning with his blades and stuff. But Zest just felt a little bit more explosive without the blade too. But in the end, it goes very even. Probably Chosei One wins a little bit towards the end, but it is very close. So anyway, Gardens, as I was saying, 149 for the Charge. They get that initial cap as well because they do force him off of the Reaper onto the Genji, and it's just Piggy beaming them down. Piggy definitely outplays Fury in this series to say the least. His impact with his beams and how he just takes over the control of the tempo when he gets high energy. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. So basically, Philly barely triggered the overtime to get that 49%, and just kills three to keep them in the game. That's how they get their 49%. But then they just have the ultimates on the Charge to kind of win out. You have a big EMP to start the final fight. Zest hits a blade, but doesn't do anything because he gets no help. He still gets two, but it doesn't matter because Charge just have more ults and they end up winning. So just that initial cap kind of put Philly on the back foot, and they don't really recover. But in the next two maps, they do a great job. 135 win. Charge take that initial cap, but then Philly cap back and they play very patiently. They wait for Jimmy to commit the EMP, but Fury hits a reactionary bubble onto himself as it goes off, letting him still get the grab because the interaction works. Like if you hit the bubble, you don't actually get hacked. Your bubble just goes away. So he doesn't get it hacked. So he can still grab, and he hits the grab while his team's EMP, and they end up winning. And somehow they end up winning in the overtime despite Zest dying early and MN3 EMP not hitting a lot. I don't know if maybe the charges didn't touch or they didn't something was wrong because there was no world where Philly was supposed to win that final fight, but they just do. Then we get Control Center, which is 175 for Philly, and Philly was very aggressive in this particular round because you have MN3 doing a lot to try and he's harassing far away, so then Piggy ends up dying to get that initial cap, which is huge. And then Charge do actually flip back because Piggy just walks up, MN3 dies. He's Piggy. He does what he wants. And then it's just that aggression still from Philly. It gets a little over aggressive at times because you have Zest. He's like 10% off of Nano, but he has the blade. He just goes in without it anyway. And I know a lot of the time the Nano Boost can go over to the Zenyatta or over to the Zarya, but it's like you just put it on Zest and you win that fight. Just wait another 5 seconds, even not even, and you'll get the Nano Boost and you can go in. But they don't. So anyway, Charge end up living through the blade. They aggress onto the beat. Both teams use their grab and Charge end up winning. But then you get the EMP's initiation. MN3 gets a better one. He ends up winning. Then you have the aggression. You hack far away. You go onto him. Zest hits a Nano Blade and gets kills, and Zest is just being more active still. Choi Se-won didn't really have the impact that he needed to in the final two maps, final two rounds at this point to actually get it through. So then we go over to Eichenwald. It's a 3-2 for the charge. You have the only difference now being the Sojourn, and then the Genji comes out. The Genji Reaper stuff for Zest, he's mostly on the Genji, but he starts to Reaper a little bit. So anyway, on Philly's offense, he's on the Reaper. He tries to pressure the front line, but Jimmy just one-taps him, and he switches over. And basically Philly get through A because Nano Zest kills both supports, even though he got hacked. He didn't care. And Philly cap A. But on B, it's a very much a standoff because you have the Sojourn, and it's very difficult for them to actually dive onto the Sojourn or the backline because they're not playing directly beside each other. They're kind of far away, right? So you have to choose which one you want to go onto, and it's just Philly just keep trying to push the card, and they rotate up the high ground, but they never really push in. They really struggle to get through there, and it takes them a long time. Eventually, they do get through with the Nano Blade, but it just was a repeated of Jimmy was doing things. Choi Se-won was finding good dives onto the backline. Even Ajax fixed it at one point. And eventually get through, right? They have 145 going into C, and from there, it's just you have Nano Piggy. He's able to chill out. Jimmy comes out on the Widow whenever it's looking kind of bad because over time, Nano Clock MN3 gets a lot. So Jimmy comes out on the Widow. He ends up getting a kill. Zest gets his blade slept and then grabbed and then charge hold at the very end of C. Then we go over to Charge's offense where they put Jimmy on the Sombra now. And they just kind of roll through A and they end up rolling through most of B without using an ult because MN3 tries to EMP the backline. He ends up dying and so does Zest. So they trade 2 for 1 for Xerneas basically, and Charge just say, okay, we'll just keep pushing because Philly don't want to commit down anymore. Because they would be playing into a ton of ults, so that would be a losing fight. So basically, Charge are able to keep their ults until the very end of B. They just commit them, and they end up going into C. Then they push deep for some stagger kills, and they get them, and no one dies. So then you get a 3-man EMP from Zest. From MN3, he stabilizes a little bit, but it doesn't matter. Jimmy comes through, Grab gets kills, and Charge end up winning. So pretty much a pretty handed win from Charge here. Yeah, Philly pushed a bit, but just they had a much better B push, and that set the tone. I don't know, maybe Philly got a little too over ambitious with that EMP, but it just kind of works out well for the Charge. So moving over to Dorado, we have another 3-2 win for the Charge with the Zarya and the Sombra compositions again. This time Philly's on the Zen and Charge is on the Lucio. I do like the Lucio a bit more most of the time because you are able to, walk forward and speed in with the Zarya, so it works out. But then the Zen is also good if you want to try and fend them back. But I think the speed boost is more value overall. Anyway, on Charge's offense, they have a pretty good time because they push through the choke pretty easily, but Jimmy does get a little over ambitious and tries to kill Aimgob, but he dies. But then they're pushing through, and it looks like you're going to just kind of win the fight because Fury gets so low, but he barely lives out, gets nano boosted, and Fury comes alive there. And then the next fight, you lose to an EMP because Xerneas drops a beat after Choi Se-won died from the EMP. And then they end up EMPing back the next fight. Xerneas, who had a phenomenal game, by the way. Xerneas was kind of scouting out anytime MN3 was in the backline. He would go chase him and chase him really far away. So then it kind of makes it so Philly can't engage as nicely as they'd like. And he was just so bloodthirsty. They talk about bloodthirsty support. This is genuinely he was competing for final blows with Choi Se-won, with the rest of the team. Choi Se-won was the only person consistently above him from what they said on the broadcast. So it's unreal game. Anyway, he ends up finishing both supports and Charge cap out A, and then they Nano Blade to get through the beginning of A. They do lose a fight to a nice dive and a pulse bomb, but that's gonna happen, and then they win out the next fight as well with an EMP. But they also could trade grabs, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense from Fury's perspective because he lost both supports. So I don't know what his goal is there. He just kind of tosses it. He does that throughout the series. He just tosses his grab out when he thinks that there's maybe a chance and he's gonna die, and it doesn't really work out almost ever. So I'd like to see him stop doing that maybe. But that's how it is. And anyway, on C, you get a Nano Blade on the Fury, but he gets nano boosted, so the Nano Blade just completely does nothing. And then Charge do eventually kill Fury because Xerneas hits a nice boop on him off the high ground. But you lose your supports at that point, and then you're running out of time. Fury hits a grab with 10 seconds left. The Charge managed to kind of come back with some ults, but not really. And Philly end up holding them just past the bridge on C. And then we go over to Philly's offense where you get Fury on the Diva. And then you get Jimmy on the Sojourn, Piggy on the Winston. Yes, the Pigs thing comes out, and Xerneas out on the Brig. So Jimmy ends up slowing down Philly with a pick, but then not really, because Fixit hits a really good sleep dart, Charge lose 2, and they get super split. They kind of back up into a weird position, and it just results in them losing the fight and not even getting a recontest. But then on B, they're able to stabilize a good amount because Piggy can jump into the backline with the nano boost. He ends up winning 2 fights like that. Whenever Philly have the ult advantage, they literally just could have, said, "Fuck it, we're gonna transcend out. We're gonna grab him. We're gonna do something." And they don't until 3 fights in. So then they finally get the transcendence out. They finally use their ults and win. Um, and they break through the beginning of B finally, and then you get an EMP to cap out there. But then Charge do something really weird here. They win a fight on C, and then they go for a spawn camp, which you don't really see a lot. It ends up working out, even though MN3 does back cap from progress. It's not a huge deal for them. Because Zest hits a nano blade in the final minutes. You kill Xerneas. He dies the fairway. And that's about that. Like Nano Piggy's on D.Va, he just kind of lives. Fury whiffs another grab, and Trust Everyone comes back and he clutches out. But it was very close. Then we go over to Coliseum. It's an 87-75 for Philly. Both teams still on the Genji Zarya, but Guangzhou playing the Sojourn into the Sombra, and Jimmy doesn't really get the value he needs to on this point. You didn't see him get a lot of picks, like almost at all, and they just kind of lose because of it. Initially he way too far forward. He just kind of dies. I don't know what's going on there, and a lot of times it's like back and forth because it's push. Obviously, you get the nano blade going one way, you get the nano blade going the other way, you get the grabs going on. But consistently, it was like I feel like the Sombra was getting far more value than Jimmy on the Sojourn, and the EMPs just being another fight win condition really helped them out here. And that's the biggest thing. And there was some good pushback from Charge. They almost took us. They do win. They're 1 fight away, but they take casualties in that final fight. So then it's a 3v5. They just kind of lose there. But pretty close overall. Piggy again, kind of being on top with the nano boosts, with the damage, the raw damage output, but Philly DPS being able to maybe uplift them a little bit, especially against the Sojourn. And then we go over to Oasis, which is just a 2-0 for Charge, straight up. They came to play here. On University, it's 100-0. It's just like, it's brutal. So yeah, they just kind of roll University. They just keep finding really good opening picks, whether it be with a hack or with a sleep dart or anything. They're finding great picks. First on Fixa, and then you find another one on Zest, and then from there, it's like Philly don't really just push in very well. And Charger at 60%, and they had no ults have been used this entire round. And then Piggy has the ult advantage. He hits the grabs. MN3 dies. Fury hits a grab and forces B, but doesn't kill anything. And Chargers kind of win round 1. I don't know if you can say it's lucky. You can say whatever it is, but like they get the hacks, they get the sleep darts, they capitalize on them, and they just win. And then you get Garden, which is 100-41, and you start off with a huge nade from far away to get charged the initial cap. And then you get the Philly DPS just kind of rolling over and dying early. Zest goes over to the Reaper, and at that point, you're like, well, this is kind of lost because the Reaper hasn't been working this entire time. They haven't been feeling it. So you play it now, and it just doesn't work out either. Eventually, Philly do win a single fight because MN3 gets an EMP, and he kills Faraway, he kills Piggy. But, like, Charge come back, Xerneas chases down MN3 as he's been doing this entire series. Choice of one hits an Ajax in the Fixa, and then the grab and the beat pulled through, and they just kind of went out. And then, yeah, nice Charge victory there. So the time of the play match is going to be Xerneas. I was always saying, huge value from Lucio here. I've never seen a Lucio really chase down MN3 or an enemy Sombra the way he was. It was actually crazy, denying hacks, securing eliminations. Maybe part of the reason why he didn't like the Reaper in this matchup, because Xerneas was so good at booping him away and the peel was there. But it's not just that he was doing that, it's like he didn't get caught doing it. You'd think maybe you'd lose that 1v1, but he never did. Great job. It made Philly much more... It slowed down Philly's game because MN3 wasn't able to set up as nicely at the end of fights or the beginning of fights. And he was head and shoulders above Fixa this entire match. Like, no doubt. Fixa gets Ajax twice. And Xerneas just played great. But then we go over to... That's not the right team, so long. So we have the LA Valiant against the Hangzhou Spark. Ends up being a 3-2 win for the Valiant. They continue to pile on map 5 wins. Unheard of for this team until recently. So Valiant playing Easyhan, Becky, Marvel, Lingza, and Molly. Spark playing Shy, Alpha, Yugushui, Neko, and Teru. They continue to terrorize with Neko instead of Super Rich. Justice for Super Rich, I beg. Ilios is a 2-0 for Valiant. They're both playing the Sombra, Tracer, Winston, Brig, Ana. And both of these points are extremely close, but it still feels like Valiant is favored in both of them. So it's 100-99 for Valiant. And they kind of just win off of killing Gushui a lot. Gushui is very much a target of their focus a lot of the time. He gets hacked and he ends up dying. He gets sticks and he dies. The biggest thing for the Spark that brought them into this map, or into this round, was Shy was outperforming Easyhan and the EMPs pretty significantly. So first off, he hits the first EMP and Easyhan counter EMPs, but they're already down two. And then he gets his next EMP back like 40% before Easyhan, so they get another fight win there. And they're able to draw out those fights pretty well to get to that 99. But that was like the main thing. That was the only noticeable aspect that Spark was really better than them on, because Becky was building ults significantly faster than Alfie. He had an ult after the first fight, sticking them pretty well. The backline was doing better. I don't know. It was just kind of. It just felt like Shy was able to, even on the Sombra, was able to elevate the rest of the Spark, not through the map window. Then we get the Well, which is 100 to 99 for Valiant. They take that initial cap, and both Chasers have the pulse, so they're both playing pretty well at this point. And they actually get to basically 100. And from there, it's like Spark, it's a huge long overtime. They barely manage to win because they take out Marvel. So then the point presence from Valiant just isn't there anymore. They slowly drag out that fight and they win there. And then guess what? It happens again. A second time. A huge long overtime. Like that round was more overtime than it wasn't with how long these overtimes were. And again, it turned into, well, Marvel died, so Valiant so Valiant don't secure the map again, and Spark continue. And then finally, another overtime win. This time they're both at 99 though. And now it's Gushue who falls before Marvel. And from there, his team loses. And we get the 100 to 99 value win. But it was crazy. Gushue was, in his credit, in this map, was living much better than the last one. There were times where he was running around at 1 HP. And if he dies there, it goes the other way. And they don't even get to that other overtime. So huge credit to him there. But it's just like, Spark just didn't really have it together. There were times where Shy would EMP5 and it still wouldn't manifest into a victory. Shy can't do more on the Sombra, I think. And then you go over to King's Row. 3-1 victory for the Spark. Saucin comes in for Marvel. Bernard comes in for Gushue. You get to the Zaryas now. And you have Becky on the Echo, which is what he's known for, right? That's what he's been doing the most on. But the problem with that is it's not actually that strong on the King's Row most of the time. It's really good on A, I would say, but on B it kind of isn't that great. On C it isn't that great either. And they don't even make it to C on the offense. But basically, Spark kind of win because Becky can't perform to his level. Now, he was still playing pretty good, but he wasn't able to dominate the game. He wasn't able to be that X factor that Valiant need him to be to actually get the wins anymore. So you get Spark on their offense. Bernard just kind of gets a lot of charge, goes to the hotel, and just kills 4. I don't know. He just beamed them down. So they cap A pretty easily, and then Becky goes over to the Tracer, gives up on the Echo. And it's not like Tracer's horrible here, because you have Tracers on both sides, but it's still not, he isn't able to really elevate, again, as much as he would be on a map where it's more suited. So they make it through A. And going to B, it's something really weird happens. Lynx is playing way too far forward in like a side hallway on Brig, because they want the Brig for the Echo, but they're not there anymore. So it's Lucio against Brig now. Again, I favor the Lucio in that matchup. And he just kind of dies there, and then Bernard runs down on the Saucin because he doesn't have the Brig anymore, and there's no speed, he can't leave, so he just kind of loses. However, Valiant are able to stabilize at the very end of B with a grab, and Becky goes back over to the Echo now, so he can't decide what he wants. He goes on the Echo, and Valiant kind of look to hold the Archway now, because they get an early pick on Shy, so Spark just say, okay, we don't have our guy, we're going to leave. So they hold the Archway, but they get pressured out pretty easily. Alfie is able to come in, Nanoblade, kill 4, and just cap B. And then it takes a little bit to actually get through C as well, but they do end up capping that with 43 seconds. They take a really wide angle on the Valley whenever they're trying to hold on that corner. They do get grabbed, but they kind of live through it. Because, well, Shy doesn't live through it, but they're able to respond with a Bernard grab and push towards the end there. And then Alfie kills 3 to close out. And then we go over to the offense, and Becky's back on the Echo. Neko's on the Zenyatta, and Becky is basically tasked with controlling that entire high ground, and he actually does. He manages to control that entire long hallway. Eventually, he gets pressured down, and he does lose, but then he comes back, gets nano boosted, controls that high ground again, and pressures down the Spark backline for Valiant to be able to cap A. Because whenever that backline gets pressure, it's a lot easier for the Valiant to just live on that point. And then you get a Spark stabilization at the Archway with the Graviton, and Bernard is just continuing to be an absolute menace on the Zarya. I feel like Bernard probably had a better match on the Zarya than Saucin did to me. I don't know. I feel like he was more core to the wins that Spark were getting compared to Valiant. But yeah, anyway, Bernard's Grav isn't as good as Saucin Grav, so they get through there. But they don't actually cap out in the end because Spark have the ultimates. They can't get cleared out because in the end you get towards the end of B, you get a fight where you have Valiant that get a lot of kills, but they don't actually win them cleanly, and they don't fully clear out the Spark. So Spark come back, they're able to contest, and they just hold on at the end of B. And then we get Circuit Royale, which is a 3-2 for Valiant. This one was kind of so shocking because you get a Junkrat rollout from Becky. He's off the goop or something. He immediately. Okay, before I get into that, Valiant are playing the Sombra, Junkrat, Zarya, Zen Sombra, or Ana, into the Widow, Tracer, Sigma, Bab, Zen. So Spark staying more historic with the Sigma. But on the offense here, Becky sets up the Junkrat mods. He's doing the JVJ, bro. Maybe he called JVJ, I wonder. And then he goes, boom, mine's out, gets rocked and dies instantly. And he does it again, and he almost dies. And then he's living. They get to the bend. He goes up. He immediately dies, and then he swaps over against you. I have no clue what the goal was. Not a single idea. But I am here for it. Becky, he said, I need to play Junkrat. It is my time. And he does. He comes in clutch. Best Junkrat in the Countdown Cup, hands down. So after that Junkrat, whatever, Valiant just kind of wait for the Zarya comp to build up the charge. They're able to run down Bernard on the Sigma. Even though Shy is able to kill people around him, he doesn't have anyone with him, so he ends up dying. And they kind of stagger him a little bit, so they are able to push up into B pretty well. They only one fight win, and they get it because Bernard whiffs his flex basically. EMP gets a good amount of people, and then Nano Saucing kills 2, Becky Blade kills 2, and Valiant head into B. And then he gets Shy going for the Sojourn, and he gets some kills, which let Spark hold up kind of aggressive. They don't really hold that initial choke or the spawn camp, but they hold the advanced high ground. They catch them on the rotation, and they hit a window. But you get EasyHunt forcing Trank, which lets them use their Trank later in a fight. They kind of push through. And then Spark decide to swap over to the Zarya comp. But at this point, you reset both of your supports alt charges. You reset your tanks alt charge. You don't have you have like overclock, and you have maybe pulse bomb. So you have DPS alts, and they just kind of lose off of that. They trade for Becky. Becky and Shy trade, which is kind of a net win for Spark, I guess. But EasyHunt gets the EMP, which they don't have anything they can do. So the cart gets the end. Bernard does get a grab, but it's good, but it's not good enough. And Valiant end up barely squeaking out. And I think those alt trades was a big part of that they end up squeaking out with 8 seconds left. And then you go over to Sparks offense, where they're just going to play the Zarya and off rip. Becky's going to be on the Genji. No more Junkrat, unfortunately. And basically, you build up Nano Sauce, and you run into Bernard. And it kind of works out. They end up winning that fight, but in the next fight, Sparks say, okay, you know what? We're going to play a bit more passively here. We're going to let Shy cook on the Widowmaker, because they're not playing anything like that. They're playing Sombra Genji, right? So you just let Shy cook, let him find a pick, he ends up getting one, and then you go. And that's basically their entire game plan is you have to let Shy get the kills, and then you go commit. Because if you commit before he gets the kills, you're not going to win. And that's basically what they do the entire time. Even whenever you get EasyHunt going over to the Widowmaker for a little bit, Shy definitely wins that duel, and it works out. But at the very end there, you try to go. You go through B. Val recontest B with 0.8 seconds left somehow. And they kind of win off of that, and that sets the whole thing gone, because they should have won that fight. So, but instead of that, you end up capping it in overtime, and you don't have the time to get through C. If that recontest doesn't come out from Valiant at the very end, it's a completely different game. Spark probably win that match, or win this map, and then they win the next map too on New Quintry, where they go 128 to 56, and you take out the carry. You take out Becky, you put in Dia, you run the Reaper, and that's it. It's a wrap. The Reaper comp doesn't get as much value as the Genji here. You get a full cap from the charge, or from the Spark, rather. They're both electric, kind of, so, you know. But anyway, you're running Sojourn Genji into Sombra Reaper, and it's basically like the Reaper just wants to run in and commit to the frontline battle, but you have Shy also doing that kind of in a way, because you can get a pick onto the Zarya, you can get a pick on the Reaper. It's much more scary than the Sombra, I would think. Because like Sombra gets a hack onto the Sombra, onto the Reaper, it's bad. But you have the Sojourn here, and you have Shy with how good he is. He's able to get good picks, and the Genji just kind of runs through them. Because you can just speed away from the Reaper. I don't know. It just didn't work out as well. It just didn't work out, and they don't have a plan B. It's not like they can go over to the Genji now, because you have Dia. So unless you're playing double hit scan, that's all you can do, because you have EasyHunt and Dia in. So I think it's a major misplay to not just put Becky on the Reaper, and if it doesn't work out, he can go Genji, he can go Tracer, he can go Echo. We've seen Echo on New Quintry. Like those are options that he could have done, but instead they get kind of bulldozed over. The Reaper doesn't really hold any ground. They don't run very well into him, and Spark end up winning 128-56. But then we go to Busan, 2-0 for Valiant. These are both kind of close as well, but not really. You get Marvel coming back in, so you get Valiant playing the Winston comp into the Zarya comp now. And Sanctuary is 100-95 for Valiant, and you kind of expect Spark to come out on top here because you have the Diva into the Winston. You'd think, oh, you can counter dive the Winston a lot better, but the counter dive wasn't winning. You get Valiant just getting a dive on the supports, you win, you do it again, boom, 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 boom. The dive was much better from Valiant. Spark do get some casts because Shy is the GOAT on the Sombra. On whatever he plays, he's the GOAT. But like that's basically it. Again, they win their fights off of Shy's EMPs or Shy just hitting big plays, doing good individual work, and that's not enough to actually win you rounds. You're not expecting 3 EMP fight wins. That's not reasonable. So Bernard ends up swapping to the Zarya at the very end, even, but it just doesn't like that. That kind of says you're done, you know. And then you get Mecha Base, where you would expect maybe a Spark win again on the Zarya, because they're playing Sojourn, Reaper, Zarya, Lucio on it. That's extremely difficult for Marvel to get value, but he was actually thriving. Value were playing very carefully, surrounding all of the Spark, choosing their engagements very carefully. You hack Shy, you anti him, he ends up dying. Marvel skirting around the Reaper very effectively, and they come out on top in the first fight. However, Shy is still the GOAT. So don't get it twisted on the switch run. He's going to get you a fight win. He's going to get you multiple fight wins because it does go very back and forth. But Valiant are the team that close out. They win 2 in a row finally, and they end up winning. But like it just felt like if you don't have Shy carrying, you're not winning still. And Alpha, you can get you some fight wins, but like only on the Genji, only with Nanoblade. It felt like he wasn't there for the raw gaming potential that you want from him. So anyway, time to play the match. It's going to go over to Becky. Becky birthday W. Shout out to him. Tracer Echo God, he gives Valiant that X factor that they really need to clutch out fights and win these map 5s. So many times it just felt like he was getting 2Ks just free on the backline with a pulse bomb or without a pulse bomb. And whenever you take him out, they don't look any good. Like they really not any good, but they really did not look like they had an idea of what was going on. And like, yeah, he does need maps where he can pop off effectively. You don't get that on King's Row, not really, and you don't really get that on Circuit, even though you win that. It's a bit more up in the air, and it really could have went either way. But yeah, he gets those maps, he pops off, and it's a non-issue across the entire series. So anyway, gonna be Becky. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you like and subscribe. Deuces.